everybody, Build It here. I'm doing a video on creating a Christmas ornament. It'll be a multi-layer ornament using ChatGPT to generate the SVG files for the ornament. So what I'll do is I'll open up ChatGPT where I already have my prompts entered, and we'll show you what I'm talking about here. So this should be all ready for me. I can go into my recent ones, go into my STL Pine, so I can show you what I did here. So I made one mistake when I first created my prompts. I created printable STL. Well, STL is not the right file type for laser engraving. STL is stereolithographic, and that's for a 3D printer. So that was a worthless one. Plus, it was a very blocky. Let me show you what it looked like. It was a very blocky file. So let's get rid of one of these and keep only one. Okay. So as you can see, there's the trees. They're very blocky looking, and not what I was looking for at all. So that's what we created there. So what we're going to do now is, then I went in and I said, okay, create a laser cuttable black and white SVG of a small group of 5 pine trees on a shared base. And so it created something different, which was again very blocky, as you can see here. So then I said, okay, use this image and make it more, okay, so then I said make the trees more realistic, which was a little too much detail, so I said make it more like a silhouette, and then it created this version. And then I told it to randomize the tree locations, which was a little, not quite what I wanted. So then I said, okay, let's create a laser cut Christmas ornament with pine trees. So then it created this one here. Only problem with this is really not a laser cut. You can't cut that star out because that is not attached to anything. If you cut it out, it's just going to fall out, and you're not going to be able to, it's not going to be attached. I'll explain how I'm going to fix that. So then I said create a second layer of the house and chimney. So then it created this version. I said change to a transparent background. I tried to make it to separate files. It wouldn't do it. Made it one file. So now let's go in and we'll load our file in by going into our import. And I believe it was this guy here. So it has a transparent background. They're both attached together. You can't separate them because it's not considered to be grouped. Also, you'll notice that these are more elliptical and not round. I like them round. So these will get, I'll modify these after we do what we need to do to make this into separate files. So let's start by making them separate files we'll do a trace. So since we're clicked on the image, you can go in here and tell you trace the image. The trace image, you can adjust the settings for the trace, but you see it goes away. So you want to pretty much the default works just fine. You just say okay, that creates the traced image. We can grab our original image and move it. You see now I have my traced image here, and now I can they're grouped and I can ungroup them. So now they're separate. So what we're going to do now is I will highlight one, and I'm going to group that one by itself because it separated all the pieces out, so I don't want them all separated yet. And then we're going to do the other one as well. We'll group it. I'm doing this because I want to adjust the size. And so a couple of things. They're too large. They're 240 millimeters is like 6 inches. That's a big ornament. I like about 100 millimeter ornaments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab them, or grab one at a time, and then I'm going to change the width to 100. Now the height's going to be higher because it's got the part up here for the hanger, so that's why I only changed it at the width, and since they're locked it scales it appropriately for the other half. And that gets me down to a 100. But like I said, it's still elliptical. So what I'm going to do is I'll grab a circle tool. And remember to hold the shift key and hold it, and it'll create a perfect circle. And then I'm going to change that to a 100 millimeter circle. And I'm going to create an offset of that of 3 millimeters. And that will create a perfect circle with a frame around it. And I'm going to be using this one anyway for a for another layer. What I'm going to do before I group them, I'm going to grab this one, I'm going to duplicate it. This is going to be my background layer. Come on. Oh, I'm not. Got the selection tool to get to duplicate. Duplicate. And I can drag one of them off out of the way here. It will become my background layer. So what I'm going to do that, like that star and these snowflakes, I'm going to remove the snowflakes from the ornament, and I'm going to remove the star, and I'm going to place them on the background layer and engrave them on the background layer. And then I'm going to move all these to cut layers. I'm going to move this one to number 1, and then I'm going to rename it to, let's see, that's going to be layer 2, I believe. Yeah, layer 2. So I'm going to call this layer 2 cut. By double clicking here, I can change the name. Right now it says layer 3 cut. I'm going to change it to layer 2 cut. Now that's my layer 2. This will become layer 3. Our background is a cut layer here, but it's not going to be a cut layer for the image that we're going to, for the pieces we're going to put on it. They're going to be engraved. So I'm going to move this to layer 1, or it doesn't matter which one, layer 1, because it'll cut that then, and that's going to become that part. Then I'm going to remove these, but after I fix the sizes of these to make them so they're not elongated or an elliptical shape. I'm going to group this into that for my frame. I'm doing the frame because we're going to personalize this, right? We don't want it to be okay, so now you can see that elongation of this, or the elliptical shape of that one, and we'll shrink it down a little bit. Grab my other one and move it down a little bit. Now it should be pretty close to what we want this to be like. Almost there. Oops, wrong one. Ah, damn it. I moved it and changed it from 100 size. So I was scaling the wrong one. Scale this guy again. Okay, so that gets it pretty close to what we want it to be. And I'll do the same thing on the other elliptical ornament. We'll drag, oh, did it again. Grab the red one, and we'll shrink it down so it kind of is lined up with that. So that gets us both of our 100 millimeter layers now. Everything's down 100 millimeter circle shape, basically. When I was talking about putting like a personalizing, putting the name in it. So that's what we want to do, is we want to put a name in here. We're going to weld it to the frame here. I did this already. I did this whole video once already. But what ended up happening was that the name was too fragile, because it's actually is a pretty small piece and it ended up breaking. So if I switch to showing, as you can see in my camera here, I have all the pieces already cut out. And some of the other problems that I ran into when I cut it out. So here's all the pieces that I did cut out. The name broke. I glued it back together because, like I said, it was super fragile. Just carrying it upstairs, I broke it, and it broke into 3 pieces. I've kind of glued it back together now. You can see in my camera picture here down here at the bottom all the pieces. I've already cut them all out. So, like I said, there's the background. I removed all the snowflakes. And I put the star and I engraved it on the background. I created the name and put it on its own layer. And that's an easy thing to do. I can't remember what font I used though. So go into my font and I'll type my name in again. Now this is a terrible font because none of the pieces are joined, right? So you don't want to use a font where the pieces are not joined. And so what we want to do is we want to find a different font that is joined together for the most part. Now this is all joined together, or almost, not quite. You notice that the I is too close here in the ILL. Let's see if I can adjust my horizontal spacing to fix that. There we go. So that creates the WILL. So you notice the W though is not attached. So that's a problem, right? We don't want. You have to have the W attached for it to be able to weld and to cut as one piece, so that you don't have a separate piece hanging off in space. So how do we fix that? That's the question, right? Well, there's a couple of ways we can fix this. Let's see if we can change that spacing just a little bit, because it's starting to not overlap the way I want. So let's try and change this to like a 0.5 spacing. And that gets those welded better on the I and the. So what I did was I said, okay, let me just type an I in by itself. And then what I did was I selected it and I flipped it so that it created the tail on the opposite way, so that I can kind of bring it in like so, and kind of hide it, right? I don't want, it's not exactly as symmetrical, so what I did then is I said, okay, I'm going to trim off all the rest of this, and let me see, wrong one, grab a box here, grab a rectangle, and I'm going to trim off most of that by subtracting. I believe it's subtracting to do this. So what's going to end up happening? This is going to be converted then from text into a BMP or an image file after I join this in. So oops, all right, wrong thing. So yeah, let's try and do this and see how it's going to work. That didn't work. Okay, Control Z. That's not what I wanted. Subtract. Yeah, it's right there. Subtract B from A, and then say OK. And now I've got this little piece here that's kind of hanging loose. I can bring it over here. I don't know if I can change, change that W to make it join with this. But what I can do is I can copy that and try and make the tail longer. And I'm going to move this up a little bit because I can see it's not lined on the bottom edge very well. I'm going to try and make this tail here longer. So we're going to put another rectangle down and cut that part off. And then we'll do this track again on it. And that makes a more tail for us. Might be able to, I can resize that now a little bit. I'm going to Control Z that, and I'm going to unlock it so that I only change it in one way and not every way. And then I'm going to have to shrink my, trim that off a little bit. Because the curve is not matching with the other part. What I'm trying to do is bring it up so that it comes up with the other part here and joins with the W. And I'm going to trim off that part of the W. So what I'm going to do here is, right now, while we still have this as text, I am going to remove the W from this so that I have it as a separate part. And then I got to move my other pieces that I just put in. Put it over here, somewhere in here. I'll bring that in so it matches in. I'll have to reduce the width of this part a little bit. So that they come together. And I can join these two together by just welding them together as one part. Okay, it's a little off on the sides. You can see that it's got a bulge in it right here. So I'm going to undo that. Control Z to undo it. And then I'm going to adjust that size a little more on the width of this, so that is right on top of the other one. And then we select the other one, then we can weld them back together again, and then it becomes one piece. I'm not welding it to the other part yet because I want to get everything worked out before I turn it into an image. I'm going to type my W. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring it into like that. And I'm going to trim off that tail on the W here, which is going to make this into an image when I do that. But I'm going to trim off that tail so that I can line it up with this part. So we're going to come in here now. We're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to make a square. We're going to put it over here. I'm going to rotate that square so it lines up with the shape of the edge of the L, of the W. Maybe rotate a little bit more. Maybe shrink the box down a bit so it's not quite so big. And then we'll just tell it to do like we did before, where we select one, select the other. Come on. Keep hitting the cap lock key, not the shift key. Okay, so now we got those two. We're going to do the subtract method again. Not that one, it must be this one. Nope, not that one either. Not that one either. So it's this one right here, which is the union. And what it did was actually deleted part of it, so I don't want to delete part of that. I got it too close to the other piece, and so it's cutting off the part. We don't want to cut it. We want it to leave the part behind, right? We don't want to have it erased. It's still erasing it. And keeping that part. I don't want to keep that. So that's not where we want it. It's not. Sometimes things don't really do what you want them to do. There's what we want right there. I was right the first time. Subtract was what we wanted. So there it is. We now have my tail removed on the W. But now, as you notice, oh, maybe it is still a font. No, it's not a font anymore. See, it's just a anyway. So now we're going to bring that over like so. so that it's kind of close enough that it's going to, we'll weld these two together by doing a union of them. So now it's all one piece, and that gets the, you can join these or you can just leave it alone. It will still cut appropriately because, no, it won't. It won't cut appropriately without welding it. It will actually, I think I just do a union on this too. Oh, it didn't. I did it again with the cap lock instead of the shift key. Okay, another couple things we have to do is the dots for the eyes are floating, right? So we can't have them floating. We're going to need to add little pieces to hold the eyes in place. So right now we got, yeah, so we have that. Let's worry about the welding right now. Let's create a union of these two. So now we have WILLIAM. It's close enough for our purposes right now. Let's see, got that. So now we have our William. William's going to get moved over here. We're going to make it larger so that it hits into the frame, so that it welds this to the frame, which is what we want to do. And the same with the M. We want to get the M so that it's touching the frame as well, so that when we weld these, it becomes one piece. And I got the W too big, it's going outside the circle. So we do it like that, so it's inside. I can select my other part now, and then I can weld these two together and go there. Oh, I didn't do what I wanted. How unusual, right? Let's try a union. There. Now we created a union of this, but so now it's one part. When you cut this out, it'll all be in one part other than the dots on the eyes. And the way we're going to fix that is we're going to make a little rectangle that goes between the eye and the dot. And then we're going to, I keep hitting cap lock. Okay. Then we're going to, can we union those? No, we're going to union those, and that created exactly what we wanted, right? So now the eye is connected to it so it won't float by itself. But first, let's duplicate this guy. I'll do Control C, come over here and hit Control V to get it kind of close to in place. We'll put it over here in place. Now we'll select this one, and that one, and then that one. I'm gonna move that over a little bit. It's kind of off-centered a little bit. And we'll click that, and then we'll. Why is it letting me do that now? Well, nope. That's weird. Okay, it won't let me do 3 at a time, I guess. It'll let me do 1 at a time. Okay, so we weld it like that. Say OK. Do the same thing here now. Hold the shift key and select the second part. And then we'll go into here and we will union those two together. And now our eyes are no longer floating. Union, okay. All right, so now they're not floating anymore. So now they're all one piece. Everything can be cut out and made a nice little William out of it. So one of the things I noticed when I did all this was that on the house, I have the roof of the house on a cut layer. And so as you can see here on my piece here, it cut it out. And I don't want it cut. I want it to be an engrave. So I'm going to ungroup and select the roof and I'm going to put it on a separate layer by going to my engrave layer, which I lost my engrave layer for some reason. So now that's on my engrave layer. So now that the roof is now part of an engraving, it will stay, or sorry, a line. I don't want it as a fill, I want it as a line. So it just etches into the piece of wood and leaves the roof there. I should add this piece to that same one as part of the roof. So we keep the roof as like basically one portion of this. Otherwise it'll be cut out. Like I said, if you see here on the house, the whole backside of the house is cut away. The roof is gone. You'll notice that the other problem is the smoke is not attached to the house either. So what we need to do is actually move those so that they are into the chimney a little bit. And we'll do the same thing with this one. We'll move it so it's into the chimney a little bit. And then we can, let's see. So let me undo that right now. And I'm going to move these two pieces out of the way so they don't get selected when I group everything. And then I'll regroup all of this so that it's one layer again. Or I'm in my rectangle tool. Okay, go into my group again. Selection tool. And I can group this. Now it's all one part again. And now I can go in and move these two pieces of smoke, which I'm going to group into their own little group so that I can move them at the same time and put them into the chimney. And I'm going to select my other selection. And I'm thinking it's probably a union again. Okay, so that made it part of the chimney now. And that, even though there's little tiny pieces sticking down, you probably won't notice them on the small laser cut when you cut that. If I wanted to, I could go in and I could, do the same thing we did before. Create a rectangle, rotate it so it lines up. Do a subtract on them. Get it closer. And we'll come in here. Oh, gotta select the other one. Do it. And I did a cap lock again. Grab the other one, and then we're gonna go in here and subtract one from the other, like that. So now we got rid of that little tail. And now we'll go get rid of the other little tail. A little bit bigger. Get it close. We need to make it bigger this direction. Of course, when you do that, because it's no longer done as a square. Okay, make my square big enough to cover the whole thing. Of course, I didn't make it big enough either. Make sure it's big enough to cover that little like fin, or whatever you want to call it. And we'll select our other layer and we'll subtract again. And now we got rid of that tail. Like I said, it probably wouldn't show up because it's so small that it's not going to really, wouldn't really affect the whole thing. Well, we need those smoke attached because it needs to be part of the layer. Otherwise, we got to put it as a part of the background as an engrave layer. And that's a choice we could have done too. We could just put it as an engrave over the background. Anyway, so now we've got, it moved my roof off of the wrong layer. I got to ungroup it again. Okay, so it moved my roof off of the engrave layer. Because I Control Z back too far, I guess. So put that on the engrave layer. Okay. Now I'll did it again. Need my selection tool. Grab that and we'll group it back together again. Okay, so now it's all grouped. We're all set here. It's all cleaned up. That's ready to cut correctly now. The roof will stay on as part of the house when everything gets cut. So that will work out. Okay. The William is there. This is done. So what we need to do is remove these pieces from the stars and the snowflakes. So what I ended up doing was I said, okay, I'm just going to fix one of the snowflakes and just delete the others, and I'll just have one that's right, and then I'll just resize them and position them around. Well, what ended up happening was, as we assembled everything, I thought I had things lined up okay, but it wasn't. So I ended up with a snowflake behind the trees. As you can see here in the, I'll bring up the image and make it a little bit bigger so you can see it a little bit better. You can see now the snowflake here is behind the tree, and that's not what we really want. We really want this to be shown. And so the other ones are fine. They worked out just fine the way they were. And so we will redo this as we do the other one and get that in the right positions, and that will fix all that. The other problem we're going to have is, as you look at all this, let's stack everything here in Lightburn. Or no, I can just show you on this. When you put the William over the top of this, you really can't see your background now. It's just too much. It's too busy. Even though I had it at an angle like so when I did mine. And this will be angled. You just rotate it and it'll be angled, right? So you really can't see what's happening on the background image now. Now maybe after you paint it you'd be able to see it better, but right now you really can't pull that definition out. And so I ended up changing that whole design, because remember, the things that sell best are things that are personalized. As I talked about, here's one of the smoke pieces right here. It cut off because it wasn't attached to the house. And the star wasn't attached, so the star is a separate piece somewhere. I don't even know what I did with it now. Anyway, like I said, I engraved it because I knew it would lose that part. So we will do what I was just talking about, which is we will remove the come on, switch ellipse. We're actually going to make an ellipse. I need a little bit bigger than that because I want to get rid of the whole thing. Bring it in here, we'll rotate it. Needs to be a little bit bigger in this direction, a little bit shorter in that direction. Needs to be bigger this direction still, so I can move it up. I need to rotate it a little more. What we're trying to do is align this edge. Oh, sorry, I did it again. I hate when I do that. You can't see what I'm doing. Okay. We will scan our worker. So I put an ellipse here, and I'm going to use this ellipse to subtract out. Actually, let's move it and do this one first, because I want to keep this one. So what I'm doing, I'm actually going to rotate it like that, and I'm going to shrink this whole thing down this way, so that I keep the snowflake. And that looks pretty darn close to what I want. So now I'm going to subtract out this part here. I don't have the second part selected. Can I hit in cap lock again instead of shift? And then I want to subtract that. So now this snowflake is separate. And then I need to ungroup everything so that I can separate that snowflake out. I'm going to drag it off to the side so it's out of the way. I'm going to grab the star and I'm going to drag it out so it's out of the way. And I'm going to delete these stars here is what we're going to do. So there's actually, I know there's a better way to do this. So I can actually go in here and say, but it wants to cut too much. It wants to cut all those trees out. It wants to cut all that out. It wants to cut all that out. I don't want to cut all that. So the cut doesn't work. That's why I'm doing this ellipse thing that I'm doing here, where I'm trying to delete just my snowflake out. Into a little bit bigger this direction. We'll zoom in so we can see it a little better. Drag that up a little bit so that it matches here. I need to rotate a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is get this line basically lined up with the lines of the circle here, so that it becomes like one piece. And then we'll just do a subtract here. I'm in cap lock again. Grab that, and then we're going to go into our subtract tool. Wrong one. Come on, control. Okay, it's not accepted yet, so I can go the other way. And it did the wrong thing there. I don't want the intersection either. There's what I want. Okay, so union got rid of it. So that's now gone. Right? Now we clean that up. Just need to do the same thing on the other side here. Draw another ellipse here. Bring it over. Rotate. Bring it up so it matches over the top of that again, and we get this lined up with the lines again. And then we'll do the same thing we did before. Which will do the union again. Yeah, like that. Okay, so then we say okay. Got my box still, get my selection tool, get rid of that I put on there, that little blob. I want to now select all that, because it made them separate pieces. Now I want to make them all one. So we're going to, I think it's a union, we'll do this as well. And I did it again with the cap lock key. So it doesn't have them selected. Okay. No. Select that one. Select this one. Need to select all of this. Maybe. No. Okay. Let's do this. We'll select all the blue pieces here. I think I got them all. And I'm going to group all those blue pieces together. And then I'm going to select this guy. No, I think it's a union. Yeah, so now it's all one piece again. And I can group this back together. And group that. So now we have our clean back set of trees, our layer 2. Huh, it didn't group. Okay, it ungrouped it. Let's group it back together. Okay. Now it's all one piece here. This is our image that goes behind the house with trees. And then we got our background layer here, which is going to have our snowflakes and our star on it. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to group all that right now just to keep it together while I move it. I don't actually have to group it. I want to put it over the top of this piece here. So that we can see where things are lining up. Because I don't want them to fill up the space, right? So we're going to shrink it down a bit. We're going to move the star over here a little bit and put it like right there. We have a snowflake there. I'm going to copy that snowflake. I'm going to place another snowflake down, and I'm going to shrink it down and put it like right in here. And then I'll put another one over here, which I'm going to shrink down as well and put it right in here. So that will become part of the background that will get engraved and not cut. So this gets cut, but these don't. These get engraved. And I'm going to put it on layer 3. And then I'm going to change that to BG engrave for background. And now that's BG engrave layer. And we'll now group this because it's one layer. So we'll group that together now. Now let's make sure everything lines up correctly, right? Because I don't want the trees from the other one to cover it. To cover the stars. And as you can see, that one star is now being blocked by this tree here. So we don't want that. So I'm going to ungroup that. And then I'm going to select this one. I'm going to move them over a bit. So that it's not in there. So it's not blocked. And maybe make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so that gets that cleaned up. I'm going to move this one up here, kind of more centered. Not quite centered, but close to center. And that kind of cleans that up. I'm going to move this star so that it's not in the smoke. I mean that snowflake. I'm going to move the star. Actually, I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the star up at the top and put this snowflake over to the side. Or maybe I'll put the star here. And put this snowflake maybe down here or something. Shrink it down a little bit. Put it in there. Maybe there. Yeah, that might work. We'll do that. and then I'll redo all that. But let me move all my stuff out of the way now that I've aligned everything. We can move it all back out of the way. And now we have our background here that I'm going to regroup my background together again. So now it's all grouped together and keeps the background together with everything. So like I said, this became too much of a problem, being that it became too busy when you overlapped everything. So I tried to think of a different way of doing it. And the different way of doing it would be to create a, I don't know what you call it, like a waste area at the bottom down here that it's going to block out this bottom detail here, but it'll give you a place to put the name, or you can put it at the top, but then you're going to block out the star and some of the other stuff when you do it. So what I'm talking about is, let me lock this again. Well, I'll lock it after I draw my circle. I'm going to lock it, put it at 100. I'm going to put it back on the blue layer. So what I was talking about was how do I make something that will hold just this part, right? So I'm going to put a little block down here at the bottom that's going to be part of this and be cut across this way, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to Control C to copy that. Go into my selection tool so I don't keep drawing stuff. So I'm talking about that. I took this and I said, okay, I'm going to chop off most of that box, most of that circle. Come on, switch tools. Rectangle. I want to cut off most of that. That only leaves this bottom portion. And I think it's subtract for this again. Yeah, like that. So that creates this piece here like this that will settle into the bottom here. And then we'll union that together. Nope, not union. Okay, fine. Do this union. Nope. Do that. Nope. Do that. Okay, so I want to drag this down just a little bit more so that it takes out part of that other bottom piece as well. Is that it? Or is that it? Not doing it now. See, it was doing it right before, now it doesn't want to do it right. No. 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 Yeah. No. No. Not doing what I want. It's funny this way. Sometimes the tool doesn't do what you want it to do. Let's try that. Where are we at here? Let's see. Back into here again. Not that. Not that. Didn't do what I wanted either, did it? Made it all one piece, but that's not what I wanted it to do because I don't want it to cut this line. I remember I had a hard time with this when I did it the first time too. Okay, let's try something else. Merge these two, or join those two together. Now they're all one piece. And see if this will fix the problem. No, it's not wanting to do it. Not letting me do what I want. No. Not that. That's what I want right there. There. So we finally got it. Okay. So that leaves me a little area here where I can put the name in at the bottom. It will cover over part of that here near the bottom. It's going to cover over this, like the hills and stuff here and the pathway, but you can put the name in there. Or you can rotate the whole thing around or flip it 180 and put it at the top and put the name up here, which cuts off part of the top of the tree and part of the smoke, and then it'll hide the star and a snowflake, right? Because if I grab this one and drag it down, it's going to cover that star and this snowflake. But that can be fixed, right? I can ungroup this, and I can move this snowflake down and put them in here, and I can move that star down and put it down in here, and move this snowflake down and put them in here, and then that all kind of fits in. I'm not worried so much about the pine tree losing it, and then we can just put our name inside, right? I did a terrible job of aligning these, didn't I? Anyway, that gets you the idea of what I'm talking about. I can maybe shrink the star down just a little bit to make it. Maybe shrink this down a little bit too, and maybe shrink that one down a little bit. I'm going to move this one over this way a little bit. So now we have that part where we can put our name in. So let's type a name again. Go to alpha, and I'm going to type in my name. And now it doesn't matter because I'm going to do this as an engrave, and so it's not going to cut out. It doesn't matter. It's not attached now. So we'll grab it. We'll bring it here. We're going to shrink it down till it fits inside our part we just made. And now I got the name in there, and I can put that, like I said, on the engrave layer, which is our background. So I'll put it on the black layer, and I'll select that guy. And I'm going to group it. And I think I separated the circles. No, I didn't. Okay. It didn't group my William in like I asked it to. Group. Okay. Now I select it's all one. Now I have my name that goes on the top. And I have the other layer, which is just a cutout for the cut line for the background, I think. And that kind of gets everything grouped together. And now, like I said, you got the William in here. It's a little too high, as you can see here. It's running into this other part. So I'm going to ungroup it again. Take my William and move him down a little bit, so he's not in there. And then I'll regroup it back. Which of course left one of the circles behind, of course. Grab one of these and move it out of the way. Grab the other one and we'll group it with the William layer. I moved it. Okay, first, I'll select this one. I'll select the William one, and I'm going to align them centered so that they stay together. And then I'm going to group it. Oh, I ungrouped. Group it. Group it. And I can drag it out, and it's on its own. So that's the layer that's going to go on top of everything. So that's another way of doing it. That way you personalize it. Like I said, you want to personalize things because you're trying to sell to people, and people have a higher tendency of buying things when they are personalized. So that kind of covers everything. Like I said, this is kind of worthless because, like I said, it's going to end up breaking. It blocks everything, so it looks too busy. This is my background cut layer. This is my foreground with the name for personalizing. This is my layer 2. I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and put this on a different cut layer. We'll put it on 5. I like colors I can see better. And we'll call that the oh, I see what happened here. Let me undo that. These got moved. They didn't stay with the circle when I did it. I'm going to drag it back over here and try and get it as aligned as I can get it again. I'm going to put that on the green layer because that's the layer it was on together with, and that's my background layer, my BG. Well, I don't want it engraved, but we'll group it all together so I can move it all as one piece. Missed one. I'm going to ungroup it. Now that I've moved it, I'll ungroup it so that I can put this on a cut layer, which is what I was going to do. Put it on layer 5. I have to ungroup again. It memorizes the there. I'll put that on layer 5, and this will become BG cut. Background cut. And then I'll regroup it all. So it's all one piece so I can move it around however I want for without losing track of everything. Okay, this is all one layer. If I move it, nothing drags away. Make sure this is all one layer. Yep, we're good. This is all one layer. And that one we're not going to use. Anyway, so that's the whole thing. That's the process there. That was generating the AI image. That was fixing problems that I know exist because I already did this, and then the audio didn't come out, so I had no audio on the file, which is on the video. So I had to redo the whole video again, and so that completes everything that we need to do for this. I showed you how it cuts and fixed the problems that were with the cut, and yeah. So I hope that you find that helpful or useful. You may not want to put a name. If you don't put a name, you just need to cut this part, and this part, and you're done. If you want the name to personalize, you put it on there, change whatever name you want to whatever you want. You can go in and you ungroup and change, delete the name, put a new name in, or ungroup and let's see if I can, yeah, you have to ungroup it. You ungroup. So what we'll do is we'll group the blue lines together in one group by itself. No. Put the blue lines together and group them. Ungroup. Okay. Put the blue lines together and group them by themselves. And now you can do whatever you want to the William. It's still text, so you can re-edit it and change the name to whatever name you need for your personalization. Come back out of that. I'm going to group it back together because it makes it easier to move around. And then we have it grouped again. And now it's all one again. So that covers everything. We have everything now laid out and set for our cut layers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this cut layer to the house cut layer, because that'll make it easier to reference what it is. So now you know it's the house. And you can change the other one, which is cut layer 2. We'll change that to trees. And now we have a trees cut layer. This helps you to keep organized by changing the name so you know what everything's doing. Your cut layer should always be after your engrave, so move your engrave layer to the top of your level, so that way it engraves first. You don't want to try and engrave with a piece that's cut loose because it may not line up properly. So you want things that are engraved to be, and that's what we want to do here too. I'm going to change I have the green layers, which is the background engrave, which is, because I got a background here, which is here. So let me ungroup that, which will ungroup one layer back. I'm going to move that to green, so it's on the same engrave layer, so that we only have one engrave layer. And I'll do the same thing here with the house, but now I'm going to group this back together again. Make sure I have it selected. Yep. I will group it again. So now it's all one again. I need to do the same thing here. I need to ungroup it. I got to get the engrave, or that's a line. So I don't want that to change. I want to leave that as a line. Okay, so that's good. So the line I need to move up also, just below the engrave. So we'll do the engrave and then we'll do the line. And I'm going to engrave the name William, so it'll be engraved. We're going to line the lines of the roof of the house. And that's okay, so that actually completes it all there. That's the complete process. I'm not going to use this. I already know I'm not, because it's makes it too busy, like I said. The way to organize this is I tend to take my ornaments and lay them up like so, and then I will rotate them so that the handle is not near the edge. It's down toward the middle, and that allows less waste of the material. We'll do the same thing with this one. We'll bring it over. I'll leave it down here, and I will rotate it around to come into this area over here. And then we'll grab that one and we'll move it up. And we'll grab this one and we'll move it up. And this will all easily fit in a 12 by 12 piece of basswood or whatever you want to cut it out of. And you can drag all this over toward the corner a little more so it's closer to your origin space. We'll move this over a little bit so it's more in line this way. And I'll just show you, I'll draw a 12 by 12 box. Let's draw the box with the shift key on so it makes a perfect square. 304.8 millimeters is 12 inches. And then we'll drag that over to show that, and we'll put that on our tool layer. And now it's on our tool layer, so it won't ever cut. So now you can see this is a 12 by 12 piece. We have plenty of room here for more. I can actually move this over a bit more, fill in that space. Move that over a bit so that it fills in that space a little bit. You know, conserve your material. Now you got this material here that you can use for something else. You may even be able to fit a couple more of these pieces in there. I don't know. I mean, it'll fit in here, and you fit another one. So you have, if you have four, have my box connected or rectangle selected again, selection tool. Yeah, so you can fit more of these in here. You aren't going to fit. You're not going to fit all four, I don't think. But you know, if you don't want to put a name on it, then you can just go here and delete these. Grab your other parts, like one of these. Put it in here. Grab one of these. And put it down in here. And rotate that to fill into this space here so that you can cut another one. Then you can grab one of these. Rotate it around. It might, okay, it'll fit if I rotate it this way. And now you got two sets you can cut out of one piece, a 12 by 12. So that's where we're at. I hope you find that helpful, and we will catch you in the next video. I kind of covered everything that I was going to have in two parts before we're into one part now. So hopefully that's okay. Anyway, build it out. See you next video.